Hi, everybody. Michelle Moore here with Real Estate Coaching Simplified, and of course, a green instructor. I'm glad and happy to be with you. I'm the author of this bad boy right here, Selling Simplified. It's 55 fast tips to jumpstart your real estate business. If you haven't read the book, I have to say it's pretty good. Also, if you haven't checked out the Green podcast, you must. You're missing out if you haven't checked it out. And hey, and if you think that you might be a great guest for the Green podcast, please be sure to reach out to me. You can always email me at michelle@realestatecoachingsimplified.com. We'd love to hear from you and see how you might be able to add and be a guest on the show. We're always looking for great guests with great topics and insight. So be sure to reach out. All right. Today I'm excited. This is something that we're going to be covering today that every real estate agent, this should be just like required learning, okay? When you go to real estate school, the first thing we learn is location, 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 right? And then we learn all those disclosures. And this should be the third thing, and that is the 5 P's, as in the letter P, of sales and marketing. So we're going to talk about the 5 P's of sales and marketing. You ready? Okay, so the first one is product. So you got to look at the home that you're listing or the product that you have, and you got to say, okay, when it comes to sales and marketing, what kind of shape is it in? Is this a great product, and or does it need to be fixed up? When you look at the comps, is it going to be competitive, or does it need to be maybe staged, or what can you do to help the owners be able to, to just be able to competitively be a competitor on the market? And so you want to be able to sell that property quickly, and so you want to look at the product itself and make sure that it's the most appealing as possible, right? And so you've got to look at, when it comes to sales and marketing, you're going to have a video and photography and all of that kind of stuff 9 times out of 10, unless it's some kind of a property that you would be flipping as is or a rehab. But in this case, we're talking about the 5 P's of sales and marketing when it comes to a property that you would be putting on the market. And so the first thing you got to look at is that property, and you got to say, okay, this product right here, is this going to be something that's very appealing? And if not, what needs to be done? It's part of the listing presentation. I always say needs to include that honey-do list that you got to give to your people when you do the listing presentation. So just keep that in mind, okay? So the first P to sales and marketing is the product, because when you're sending out the ads and the flyers and all that kind of stuff, people are going to be looking at, is it what I might be able to sell or want to buy? And so you want to be able to sell it quickly. And then the buyer wants to say, okay, is this a place I want to live at? Is this somewhere I want to call home? Is this somewhere I want to raise my family, or whatever it might be that they're looking for? And so you want to make sure that the product itself is desirable. That's it right there. It's the most desirable as possible. So you want to overcome some of those possible objections about the product itself. All right, so we're talking about the 5 P's of sales and marketing. Obviously, like I was saying about the photos and the photography, videography, the better it looks on that, then the chances of you getting more showings and a quicker selling is going to help. So we're talking about sales and marketing, not how long can it sit on the market and us not, sell it. So this is about how to sell it and market it quickly and effectively. The second P of sales and marketing is price. Is it going to be priced right? You have to explain to buyers, or sellers that, buyers now have, first of all, so much access to information. They're going to find out if it is priced appropriately or not, or competitively or not. I just spoke with someone yesterday, actually, and he called about a home that I had listed and sold. And I said, so you're fixing up the home next door? And he said, yes, but it's going to have new this, new that. It's got granite countertops and all these other things. And so I said, oh, interesting. And I said, what are you going to list it? What's the sales price? And he said, well, I'm going to list it for what you listed yours for. And I said, well, you could do that, but I'd list it more. And I told him how much I would list it for. I said the home I had didn't have the granite and the this and the that. So price sometimes isn't necessarily being the lowest price in the neighborhood. It's just, is it a deal for what the property is? So you got to look at the property and say, okay, what's a good deal for this property? What's the effective, really the real price for this? And so I gave him advice. I had listed my property at $297,500 and said, your home needs to be listed at least at $304,900. I said, are you kidding me? Mine didn't have granite. Mine had the original countertops and this and that. And so you want to look at what is the right price. That is the key. It's not always the lowest price, but what's the right price. All right. And then you got to be able to really kind of back up why it's priced the price that it's at. Okay. All right. So we're talking about the 5 P's of sales and marketing. Okay. So we've just covered the second one. The third one is place. All right. We know, like I said earlier, the first thing they teach us in real estate school when you're getting your real estate license is what? Location, location, location. So when you're, of course, marketing a property and it's in some big hot place, you want to say, oh, it's in, the hot such and so location, or hot such and so school district, or hot such and so neighborhood, up and coming, or whatever it might be. But you got to look at the place, because I learned this lesson years ago. Gosh, I'm going to date myself. Okay, I am only 29, but this was about 21 years ago. I learned this lesson. I had a client that I took out, some clients, a couple, and they were going to buy a home together. They were newly married or getting ready to get married. I think they were engaged at the time. And we went out and looked at some properties. So I had made 3 appointments for us. And the second appointment, they ended up falling in love with the floor plan. And so I said, great. While the on-site sales agent, it was all new construction. They had said they wanted new construction. So while the sales agent showed them a few things about the floor plan and talking about the builder specifics and all that, which was a large national home builder, I slipped into her office and made a quick phone call and canceled the 3rd appointment, which, I'm not a tour guide. If you found the home you fell in love with, why would I take you to number 3? And so lesson to be learned there, by the way. And so they fell in love with the home. The home was $35,000 less in a different neighborhood. Same floor plan, same builder. Few differences in specs, which is specifications. So the home we were in had standard 3 sides brick and vinyl on the back. The home we were moving, the neighborhood that they went and looked at, which was, again, $35,000 less, was full vinyl. And they didn't care about brick. And so they ended up moving over to that neighborhood. And so the same floor plan, little bit specification differences, but not $35,000 different. It's all about the location, right? And so where is it and what is it really worth? And so is it in a great school district? Again, sales and marketing. So we're talking about what's going to help you market this property effectively and help you to sell it quickly. Okay. So talking about the 5 P's of sales and marketing. So we just covered place. Great story, great example. Got to look at the place. What all also I love it when I see MLS listings and they have photos of restaurants and shopping and parks that are attached. So great thing to be able to include in your listings. And so think about that too when we're talking about place. What are the benefits of living there? And so it's like I said earlier, the school district or convenience to downtown shopping or whatever it might be. Especially if you've done any market research on what attracts a condo buyer, it's going to be what all is in the area. They want convenience to the coffee shops. They want convenience to the grocery store more than your suburban type buyer who is fine that we're 3, 5, 7 minutes away from the grocery store or the gas station. They don't really care. But your condo buyer wants to literally walk across the field to the coffee shop. Okay, they're fine if the coffee shop is literally in their backyard. So they want, you can't be too close to the coffee shops for a condo buyer. Okay, all right. So we're talking about the 5 P's of sales and marketing. Number 4 is promotion. Okay, so what are you doing to sell the home? And I got to tell you, there have been times where I've been like, don't buy another home. Or don't buy a home until you've seen this home, because if you do, you're going to regret it. If you buy a property and you haven't seen this one, you will regret it. And, again, your promotion, nobody's going to be more excited about what you're doing than you. And so nobody's going to be more excited about your listings than you. And so make sure your promotional items really talk up and, just really highlight the great things about the property. And yet you have great branding, you have a consistent look, and all of that promotion makes such a big difference. Right now, it seems like more than ever, you don't have to have a huge marketing budget to be able to make a big impact. You just have to be in the right places. And a lot of the right place is social media. You can reach a lot of people and make sure that people know what's coming and going on the market, especially with you and your listings, that more than ever before, if you think about it. And so I had someone reach out to me this week and said, oh, I've followed you ever since you wrote your book 5 years ago and this and that. And so, she's been following me for 5 years and I didn't know that. And so she reached out. It was finally, the timing was right. And so think about that. How many people are going to follow your listings and see what you got going and coming? Also, how many potential sellers are going to be looking at your listings and saying, I like that person's marketing. And they really seem to consistently push their homes. And so what are you telling potential clients and customers when you do a great job with your promotions? It's so important. So keep that in mind because, I did a radio show for years before I podcasted and pulled it over to a podcast. And I would get people that would call me and say, oh my gosh, I've learned so much about real estate in the last 3 months since I've been listening to your radio show. I've learned more than I could have ever thought that could be learned about real estate. I remember one guy told me that. And he said, well, my wife and I, we live in a country home neighborhood and north of town, and we'd like for you to come and list our property. And so I had really essentially been doing a listing presentation for the last 3 months, unbeknownst to me. And so was he interviewing other real estate agents? No, he was just listening to me. And so this lady knows what she's talking about. And when we're ready to list our property, then we're going to call her. And so it was a completely different listing presentation. It wasn't why me. He already knew why me. It's like, well, you're probably already familiar with we offer this and we do that on the show and this will help you and blah, blah, blah. But I spent so little time selling my company and me, which we should anyways, but even less than I usually do. And then I spend so much time talking about what all they're going to get and reinforcing that they understand and know the program and what all I offer. And so that's what you want to do. And then by the time I got done with them, it was like, gosh, nobody's asking me to take less than 3%. They're just thankful it's only 3%. And that's really the goal. So your promotion can help because you can say, if somebody has the audacity to ask you to list something for less, you can always say, and the great news is none of this costs you extra. And then if they ask for less, you can say, well, which of these things would you like for me to take off the list? Would you like to not get the flyers and the access to my social media? Or would you rather this or would you rather that? Because something will have to give. And quite frankly, I don't offer that. I don't even offer taking something off the list because all of what I offer is extremely important in the promotion of your property. And so if you want less, then you're going to have to go somewhere else because I just don't offer that. And so because I so strongly believe in the marketing program and plan that I have. So part of that in building the value and in that is that in the listing presentation, making sure you explain the why behind what. So why do I do what I do? And so this is why. And so make sure you explain that because, just like those professional photography and videos that you do for your listings, for your promotion, their National Association of Realtors now says that about 32 to 34% of home buyers are finding their new home online. So this is why we have professional photography and professional videography. It results to results. It's not wasted efforts or time, and I'm not a professional photographer, so we don't want me with the shaky cam either doing the video, right? We want to sell your home as quickly as possible, so we want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward. My promotions on my listings have been so good at times that I've had people literally I had one client or one customer, I had a listing that I had taken, and the video and the photography and the descriptions under each of the photos and everything was so great that they bought the home from another state, sight unseen, $10,100 over full price. And so they were like, we've seen the photos, we've seen the video. It was a full motion walkthrough video, continuous walkthrough video. So they felt like they'd already been in the home. I'd already overcome that issue, even if you were in another state. So they were able to move forward and purchase the home, closed on it 3.5 weeks later, and were thrilled with the property. And so that's the kind of stuff that you want to make sure that you're doing is painting the picture and promoting with the right products. So you want to make sure you got your promotion in like pronto, good stuff. All right, perfection. We're going to say perfection, promotion, perfection. All right. So the 5 P's of sales and marketing. Number 5, people. It's your people. So you got to think about that in a time that customer service is so bad. And people are really not really good at articulating why me. So what happens, I'm sure we all have had this, where we feel like the general buying and selling population seems to think of real estate agents as a dime a dozen, right? And so you may have, like in Tennessee, I think there are over 30,000 licensed real estate agents throughout the state right now. The market's great. And so guess what's happened? Everybody thinks they can either be a real estate agent, a mortgage lender, or I don't know, an insurance agent. It'll change though. The industry gets an adjustment when the market turns. But how do you differentiate yourself from just being another real estate agent? And if you're not differentiating yourself, then what happens is you're a commodity. It's like, oh, well, it's a lot of supply, very little demand. And so you've got to say, okay, how am I different? How am I, apart from the other 30,000 real estate agents in the state, or 20,999, and then there's you. And so that's what you want. You want for people to be wowed by you. They want to, it's not, oh, I'm going to list the property, I'm going to pick a realtor. I don't even know how to say it correctly. And so you want to make sure that people see the value in you, and they say, you know what, I'm going to list my home, and I couldn't dare think about listing with anybody else but XYZ, and that be you. And so, and I would also say, if you don't get the listing, if there's a listing presentation that you go on, you've got to call them back and say, look, just for my own business, my own growth, I'd like to ask you, what was it about XYZ, or why was it that I didn't get the listing? And if they say, or what was it about XYZ that made you hire them over me? What was it? And then they may say, well, they offered this or that. And it may be something providing you insight that either you really offered as well, but you didn't articulate that. Or you didn't sell the benefit, or you didn't offer it, and maybe you should. Okay. So it'll give you some insight to your business to be able to competitively make sure that you're, improving and knowing what your competition, what's selling, what's working. And they might just say, well, we just didn't like you. And then you've got a real big problem with the 5th P of sales and marketing. I'm sure that's not it. I'm just joking. But the bottom line is, what you want to make sure, though, is that you're really stressing why you. And a lot of how you do that is through the things that you offer through your promotion. But you also want to make sure, people are looking to do business with people that they like and trust. So you want to make sure that you come across trustworthy. And I talk about this all the time. The number one way to do that is make sure that you show up on time. That's starting out on the right foot. So if you say you're going to be there at 3:00 in the afternoon, be there at 2:58. Like, be a little early, be a couple of minutes early, so that you're ringing that doorbell right at 3:00, if not a couple of minutes early. All right. And that's how you build trust. And every time you communicate with somebody, you're absolutely either building or chipping away at that trust that you have with them. Do not fool yourself if you think that, oh, it's no big deal, no one's going to know. They'll notice, especially a high C or a high D personality type. They will notice, and it does matter to them. So you're going to want to make sure that you follow through on that. So the 5 P's of sales and marketing, these are all, I would say to you, equally important. So if you're thinking, okay, well, number 1 was product, so that must be the most important, I would say to you that all of the 5 are equally important. Do not think that you can be such a great salesperson that if the product stinks, literally smells terrible, looks terrible, whatever it might be, that you can overcome that. Does price help? Absolutely, price could help. Would the location help? Sure, if it's a great price in that location. But at the end of the day, a product is important, and at the end of the day, you've got to make sure that you've got all 5 of these equally looked at and considered when you're trying to sell and market a property and have a successful and effective real estate business. And so the big takeaway here is they are equally important. A lot of times people think, oh, a builder will think this. Big builders will say, well, it doesn't matter who sells my homes. My homes are so great that anybody could sell them. And that's just not true, because I have been in neighborhoods before where salespeople had been running off the salespeople, which is, I mean, the prospects that were coming in the door, believe it or not. And so did he mean to, or did they mean to? Of course not. They just had some issues. And so, extenuating circumstances, but the bottom line was the people P does matter. So there are 5 P's of sales and marketing, and do everything that you can to eliminate any issues and have all 5 of these areas really at their top point, so that you can hopefully market and sell property as quickly as possible and for the highest amount of money with the least amount of troubles for your clients. So I'm excited for you. You should be excited. This is fantastic information, and I hope it helps. And we'll see you next time.